He was reared in a small Mennonite town in Kansas, but at age 19, David A.R. White moved to L.A. to begin what is now a successful career as an actor and producer of such films as God's Not Dead. He joins me with a backstory on his latest project. Hey, David, welcome to The Harvest Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so David, we're not far here in South Bend from a Mennonite community, and I know you grew up in a Mennonite community, but at what point did you realize your calling to the entertainment industry, and what was the response?
Well, I think all of us at early ages have these dreams and desires that happen and that keep knocking on our hearts. And the question is, well, how do you take that, what is inside of you, and how do you put it into the writing on the wall? How do you live out your passion in an actual day-to-day world? And that's why I wrote this book, is because I think it's so important. For me, at an early age, I had this desire to go into the entertainment industry, and it didn't make any sense. I didn't know anybody. I was raised as a Mennonite. My father was a Mennonite pastor. I saw one movie in the theater the first 18 years of my life. There's a kind of a joke that says, if you don't know anything about the Mennonites make the Mormons look like a pack of Hell's Angels.
Wow.
I grew up conservative, yet you'll be amazed that when God puts a dream on your heart, you can't let it go and you have to chase that.
Okay, so you say that you have to chase that dream. Is there ever a time, I know this may sound a little corny, but will that dream sometimes chase you? I mean, we know that Jonah ran from God when he had a calling on his life. Will God somehow bring it together so that you can fulfill what he has placed in your heart?
Yep, I think even in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of our darkness, when things don't go the way that we want them to go, and when we're frustrated and when we're down on our luck and during our hardest times, that God is faithful, though. And ultimately, again, I wanted to write about the faithfulness of God because he's certainly done it in my life, and he can do it in your life too.
What are some of the other themes that you cover in Heaven, between heaven and Hollywood?
Well, I think all of us have bizarre stories. Moving to Los Angeles when I was 19, I certainly have a whole lot of mine from being a Mennonite who didn't dance to all of a sudden being in front of Madonna and trying out for her world tour, to when things go great, I'm on a hit television show, to the next day I'm playing Barney the dinosaur in South Central and Compton. There's bizarre stories, but in the midst of all that, it all comes down to each and every one of us are called for a purpose, that each and every one of us are unique, and that God has ordained and designed you, me, and everyone else specifically for a special purpose. And so you have to start believing in your God-given abilities. And if you do that, you will watch them come to life, and you will be amazed to see what he will do with your life.
Well, speaking of believing, I got a chance to see Do You Believe God's Not Dead 1 and 2. What do you credit this resurgence of Christian films to? I mean, it's quite successful, or we see that Hollywood is taking note.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was younger, I started into producing, and in 2005 we produced a company called PureFlix, and PureFlix was really ahead of its time. I believe that we can make these films that uplifted and inspired the human spirit to ultimately that would be an alternative to what Hollywood was consistently putting out. And within that, it all of a sudden, it was a bigger dream than myself. Coming from an actor's background and then a producer's, then how in the world do you start a distribution company? But I believe that those dreams that God puts in our hearts sometimes are bigger than what, that he wants it to be bigger than us. Because if we follow those, he doesn't want us to be able to succeed completely on our own. He wants us to depend on him. And so when we created PureFlix, all of a sudden, these movies start to come out, and what we've seen in Hollywood is that you have the Passion of the Christ. All of a sudden, the studios open up faith. They start wanting to do more faith films, and then they end up closing those programs. And then then you have the Sandra Bullock movie. What was that one called? The football movie. I'm trying to think of the name of it right off the head.
Blindside.
That's right.
Yes.
And then they all started up again. All the studios started opening up these faith labels again, and then they closed again. And so in 2014 we released God's Not Dead. and Son of God came out, and Heaven is for Real. And between the three of them, they did over $250 million in the box office, and then Hollywood opened it up again. In fact, they even called 14 the year of the Bible. Well, what we've seen since then is still a resurgence of faith films, that it's continuing to grow, because I think people in Hollywood and everywhere else is starting to realize, wow, there's 150 million people that go to church once a month. There's people who are hungry for faith content, for spiritual, something that's spiritually uplifting, and we've been seeing that in the box office, and I hope it grows, but I don't really know. I don't have a ball that I could say, oh yeah, that's going to happen. But it's been amazing to see what God has done with the faith genre.
Okay, David, 15 seconds. What are you working on next?
What am I working on next? Well, as PureFlix, if you go to pureflix.com, it is our version of Netflix, and that's definitely the next bigger dream that we've had. Because that's not easy. But right now we have over 5,000 titles on there. We have original programming. If you check out the Encounter series, is our new series that just hit. And PureFlix is still doing movies. We just finished Case for Christ, which comes out in March. And then, of course, I wrote a book. So I'd like you guys to check this out, Between Heaven and Hollywood, Chasing Your God-Given Dream.
Well, David, thanks so much for talking with me. We'll definitely put that link up to Between Heaven and Hollywood on the website.
Thank you. God bless you guys.
To connect with David, go to davidarwhite.com for a link to Between Heaven and Hollywood, or you know the drill. Go to harvest-tv.com for more information. We'll be right back.